Hi there, folks. Just want to make a video showing you some of the aspects of this lab activity about Earth's moons. You're more than welcome to read that introduction and the objective. But on this first page here, I'm looking for folks to put in the definitions of those different phases of the moon: waxing moon, waning moon, a new moon, a crescent moon, and a gibbous moon. You can find those in your notes, so take a look back to that. When you get to page 2, what you're going to see here, I'm actually going to zoom in to make it a little easier for us to see. What you're going to see here is the date of the month, the altitude, that's how high above the horizon in degrees the moon is. The azimuth, that's the direction, so they're not using the northeast, southwest, they're just using the degrees. And then what portion of the moon can we see? Remember, we only see half of the moon. And so what portion of that half can we see? Well, we can only see 1% on February 27th. We can see 17%, 27%, and so on. As you can see, it gets bigger and then eventually starts to get a little bit smaller. And so here is the question. With all these different percentages, knowing from your notes what phase of the moon should go in each one of these boxes. Now, obviously, there's more boxes than there are names of the moon, so you'll use those more than once. So instead of just dragging one over and saying, well, now I got to type it over again, what I want to show you is that you can then click on this. You can then right-click on your keyboard here, and you can go copy, and then you can go Control-V, and it'll paste a second one for you in case you need to put multiple boxes filled with the name of that phase of the moon. Now, how do you know which name goes where? Well, if you remember our notes, we just wrote down what percentage of the moon we can see for each one of these. And so we're going to list those here inside, knowing what percentage is being shown. And obviously, when we're talking about waxing means it's getting larger, and waning means it's getting smaller. All right, so we have a waxing crescent, so that's like a sliver of the moon that's getting bigger and bigger. So there's more today than it was the previous day. A waning crescent is that sliver of the moon, and there's a little bit less of it on a particular day compared to the day before. Now, gibbous is more than half of the moon that we see, all right? So it's like a quarter moon, and the waning gibbous. So it looks like you're shading in half of a circle, but a little bit more, all right? So that's just a quick recap. If you need more, go back and take a look at the notes. And so then we go to page 3, and what they want us to do is they want us to graph where the moon is in the sky and what direction is it, depending on this chart here. And so we can see we have altitude and azimuth right here. And on our y-axis, we have altitude. That's the height above the horizon. And then on the y-axis, or on the x-axis here, we have the azimuth. So it goes from east at 90 degrees all the way north back to 360 degrees. And so how do we do this? Well, let me do the first one for you. So we have an altitude of 0 degrees and azimuth of 290 degrees. So we have an altitude of 0 degrees, all right? And once again, that says we have a azimuth of 290. So I would take my 0 for my altitude and find my way over to 290. Well, how do I do that? All right, well, each one of these boxes goes by 10 degrees. So we have 270 here, it's labeled. 280, and then that one would be 290. Now, what do I need to put there? Well, you can go up to your shapes, click on shapes, and make yourself a circle. And so what you want to do is click and drag. I'll do it below here, and then I'll move it into position. Click and drag, nice and small, and I'm going to fill that in with a color that's pretty easily visible, red. And so what I want to do now is remember, it's at 0 degrees altitude, so it's right on the horizon, and it's at 290, which is 10 less than 300. Remember, each box going across is going to be 10 degrees. And so actually I have to zoom in here so I don't screw this up. All right. I got to get a little closer. 200. There we go. So once you can see all 4 of those arrows, so see how the arrows go up and down, left and right, that means you can click and drag and you're not going to change the size. So again, I'm here at 0 and 0 height and 390 in degrees. If I go to my next one, all right, I have to move over a little bit. I can see that it's at 10 degrees and 285 degrees azimuth. So I'll go back here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do my Control C and then Control V. So I'm holding Control and then pressing C. Then I'm continuing to hold Control, which is CTRL on the bottom left, and then Control V to make a copy of it. And so now I have an exact copy of the exact same size for my next data point. All right, so let's just refresh. On the second date there, it said it was at 10 degrees above the horizon at 285 degrees on the compass. So we're going to need to find 10 degrees. There it is. So that's this line here. Let's zoom out just a bit. So 10 degrees and 285. Well, this is 290. This is 280. All right, so it's going to be in between 290 and 280. Now I have to move it all the way up here to 10 degrees. There we go. Okay. So, oops, I made a mistake. So you can then click on it once you have all 4 arrows and not adjust the size. There, that's actually on 10 degrees above the horizon, and my azimuth degrees in direction is going to be 290 degrees. All right, so you're going to continue that with all these data points and see what kind of trend you have. And then you're going to get to page 4 here. And what page 4 has is a bit hard to understand when you're looking at it to begin with. So if you were above the Earth, this is what you would see. You would see the sun's rays coming from this direction, and half the Earth would be lit, that would be the day, and half the Earth would be dark, and that would be nighttime. But the moon travels around the Earth. It orbits around the Earth, and we call that, once again, revolution. So as it's moving around, we see different portions of this lit up side. Now notice the lit up side is always facing the moon, or I'm sorry, always facing the sun. But we're not going to see the same half that's always lit up. So we're going to see more of it lit up, maybe less of it lit up. And it actually looks like it's growing, but it's not growing. And actually sometimes look like the moon's shrinking, but it's not. And here's what we want to do. We want to be able to move these different perspectives of the moon in the correct position. So notice that position 1 here, that corresponds with position 1 here as well. Now, if I'm standing on the Earth right here, looking out to position 1, I'm going to see nothing but the black side or the dark side of the moon. And that's going to be this one, position 1 right here. So all I need to do is just drag that into this position. Now, I'm going to jump to another one. Say I'm here on Earth and I'm looking at position 7. All right. So I can see that half of the moon for me would be dark and half would be light. But I have to pretend that I'm actually standing on the Earth looking out. So this looks like it's on our left side dark, and this looks like it's on our right side light. But since someone's on Earth, it's a different perspective. It will be opposite. So I need to look where the dark side is on the right side and the light side is on the left side. All right, so this actually matches up. Even though this looks opposite for this one, it is the actually correct one because of the perspective of the person on Earth. I'm just going to try to get this as close as possible there. If they don't match up 100%, don't worry. And so that's the goal here. You may want to take a look at your notes. Inside of our notes, it shows us what each phase looks like. And obviously, position 1 would be a new moon. This would be a full moon. This would be our first quarter, and this would be our last quarter or third quarter. And so that's all you're going to do is just drag around these different positions into the, or these different perspectives into the positions. And that's something you will have to do when it comes time for the Earth Science Reference Test. And then our 5th page here. So this kind of goes along. You may want to do this before you actually do page 4. Because what you can do is you can take a look at the perspective here. This is what someone would see the moon to look like if they were on Earth. And you can then take these different names and click and drag them and put them in the correct position. All right. And you can get all that information directly from your notes about which position, because these pictures from the Earth's perspective of what the moon looks like are in our notes. Now, these little X's, what do we do with these? Well, we can see that for each one of these pictures, we can have to tell them, is it waxing or waning? And remember, light on the right, moon is bright. Moon grows bright. Now, if it's growing bright, that means it's waxing. Okay? So for this one right now, it's going to be the new moon. I'm going to let folks know that. We can just do that right now. So the new moon, actually it's not on here. I should just type that up. So I'll make an exact copy of that, and we'll go new moon. Awesome. So new moon's going to go right in here. And the new moon, we're actually going to see some more light in the next one. So that definitely means this one is waxing. So I can just click and drag it over to the correct position. Now the rest of these are going to have the names. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have the correct number there. All right. Quick correction there, but that's what you're going to do on page 5. Finally, on page 6, we're going to take a look at some questions. You're probably going to want to refer to your notes to answer these questions, and definitely take a look at the diagrams to help you answer questions 3 and 4. Question 5 is just, are the phases of the moon cyclic? Take a look at your notes. It's a yes or a no kind of answer. Hopefully that helps. Let me know if you have any additional questions. Good luck.